It's Sunday, May 22nd, and this is Around the Triangle, a public affairs program of iHeartRadio Raleigh committed to diversity and inclusion. We sit down with companies, business owners, and more to talk about events, people, and companies that you should know right here in the Triangle. I'm Erica DeLong, and you can reach me at aroundthetriangle@iheartmedia.com. That's Around the Triangle at iHeartMedia.com. I'd like to welcome today's in-studio guest, founder and CEO of Pink Ink Tattoo, Tara Williamson. Hey there.
Hey, Erica. Thank you for having me.
So your story is pretty amazing because Pink Ink was inspired by your own personal journey.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell us all about it. Tell us what Pink is. First of all, let's start with, what is Pink Ink Tattoo?
So what I do, I offer Areola 3D nipple tattooing and scar camouflage to breast cancer survivors who've gone through mastectomies, lumpectomies, and have lost their nipples due to breast cancer. And, you know, it has gone beyond that over the last 8 years, where now I help the trans community and augmentations, anyone that's in need of areola tattooing or scar coverage.
And when you say that, maybe somebody that hasn't been personally affected or knows somebody, they're like, well, why do you need that? Well, it makes a big difference if you've had your breast removed or things are changed for you. Why is it so important to give that normalcy to people that have battled breast cancer?
It's like people have said to me, it's like the icing on the cake, the final step in that whole breast cancer nightmare of a journey. And, you know, you get to the final end of reconstruction, and how I felt, it was just like a breast mound. There was nothing there. So every time you took your shirt off or got out of the shower, all you just saw were these mounds, and you never really connected to it. And some people, that's okay. But for me and the women that I meet, it isn't. You just feel incomplete. So after this final touch, it's just like the perfect last step where it just adds that realistic areola. You know,
Right.
Of course I'm not God and I can't create a real one, but it's pretty darn close.
But when you get out of the shower, you're not thinking like, oh,
No.
I battled breast cancer or I
Right.
had cancer. You're thinking like, hey, look at you.
Yeah.
Get dressed for the day and move on about your business.
That's right.
And this business was inspired because of your own personal journey. So walk everybody through what happened with you and how this came about.
Well, and I'm really glad that we're doing it this month because it's National Women's Health Month, which is extremely important
Yes.
for us to take care of ourselves and be our own self-advocate. So when I was 39, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which is not a normal thing. You know,
Right.
They don't even do mammograms at that age. And
When did they start? 40? Is that
yeah,
when?
it's been changes, like 45, now it's 40. So every year, I guess you
gets
just got to
younger.
stay up. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
And thank goodness I had a great family physician who said, you know what, Tara, and this is when I was 30, my breasts were dense, and she said, let's go get a baseline mammogram. And I thought, all right, like I didn't have family history, but sure. And we did that, and then she wanted to do it every 2 years just to have a baseline and stay on top of it. And I waited 3 years. Well, when I was 33, they found a little spot that ended up being just a fatty tissue, and so I wasn't concerned about it. And being a nurse at that time, I think it was like 10 years I was a nurse, you know, so I had that medical knowledge, but I just wasn't concerned about that.
Right.
And and every 3 years I'd go, and she'd get, you know, worked up at me because I wasn't following every 2. But at 39, when I went in for my annual checkup, she said, Tara. And I said, I'm going. I already made an appointment. I'm going in January. And that was 2012. So I went, and then that's kind of when everything just went out of control. And she called in February and said, hey, I need you to go see the surgeon in Raleigh at 1 o'clock today. And I was like, wow, okay. You know, I thought
Yeah,
maybe
you're
it's
like,
that
wait a minute.
spot.
Yeah.
Like, wait. And she said, your films won't be there yet from the mammogram and the ultrasound, but I want, you know, that's all right. She already knows what's going on. And I said, well, I'm right by the hospital. I'll pick them up. The biggest mistake I probably could have done. So my oldest daughter was with me. We ran in. I grabbed them. I pulled out the films. I read the report, and I almost just collapsed. I couldn't believe it. So I was like, I got to get home. We got to get home. And, of course, I don't want to be emotional in front of her.
Okay, so did you not really say anything?
No.
Okay. That was hard.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just melting inside like, this
Yeah.
cannot. Because what I read, which thank God was not what it was, but it was a 5-centimeter tumor, which is huge,
Yeah.
with trinlins, which are like spider legs, and it was in my armpit, which isn't good because that's where your lymph nodes are to go out to your body. So I thought, oh my gosh, like this is horrible. And I walked in the house and I just looked at my husband and I'm like, we have to go outside. We have to talk, like it's serious. And for him, he was affected young as a 10-year-old. His grandmother passed away from breast cancer. And back in the 80s, it was kind of a one-size-fits-all. You get this chemotherapy, radical mastectomy. And unfortunately, you know, she didn't survive. And so for him, and he was with her, took care of her through chemotherapy and all. So that's the version of breast cancer that he had.
Right.
And now here's his wife. And we have 3 kids. And he was just like, beside him, like he couldn't even believe this was happening. And I was like, you know what? We're just going to keep it together, go to this appointment and see what she has to say because I can't feel that.
Right.
So we went 7 hours later of ultrasounds and mammograms. That wasn't there, but now I have calcification. And I went, oh, okay. So, wow,
Now,
that just...
for anybody that doesn't know what that means, what does calcification
It's just like
mean?
little calcification that can be anywhere in your body. It's just like a buildup. It could be cancer. It could not be.
Okay.
A lot of times they say, let's just monitor it, which they said to me. We can just watch it, check it out in 6 months, see if anything's happened. And I said, or biopsy it. And I said, we're going to biopsy it. Right. I mean, at this point, I'm done with these emotions. And I'm so glad I did. Because it was cancer, which started out at stage 0, which is great. Prognosis of that.
Right.
DCIS is what they officially call it. And my surgeon said, here's your plan. This is what you're going to do. And I said, that's not what I want to do. She was like, no, you're going to get a lumpectomy, do radiation, and take a hormone blocker called tamoxifen. And I said, well, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to do a bilateral mastectomy. Like, I want to be aggressive. I've got 3 kids. They've done what they needed to do. I just want to live, and I don't want to live in breast cancer world of always thinking, oh, my God, is it back? Is it back? And we butted heads hard.
And elaborate on the difference between a lumpectomy versus a mastectomy. Exactly.
So,
like removal of the breast for mastectomy.
Absolutely. So with the mastectomy, everything's gone.
Yes.
Sometimes they can do nipple sparing. Sometimes they can't.
Right.
For me, I couldn't on my right side because that's where the cancer was. It was straight through that nipple right in the duct. And so that was an option, except for her lumpectomy, it would have removed partial nipple. And it's almost like an ice cream scooper that scoops out the tissue where the tumor is and surrounding tissue so that they can get what's called clear margins.
But then you chance the fact, like, that was it had roots on it, and so, or legs.
Well, this didn't. This calcification, or DCIS now, little tumors did not at that point. And so, but I still wanted to be aggressive where I could just say, get it out. I don't want that risk of coming back. And she was just a breast conservative surgeon who did not want to listen to me. And, you know, I told her, like, I'm a nurse. I've taken care of breast cancer patients. I've heard their stories. I've cared for them. I don't want to be on that other side. I mean, of course you can't control everything, especially disease, but if I can be aggressive and do what's best for me.
And not live in fear.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always going to be somewhere tucked in the back of your brain, and something's always a reminder daily, but I don't want to live that. And I know myself, I would have been consumed with it. Right. And I had 3 kids I needed to finish raising, you know, and I wanted to see grandkids, and I wanted to live my life and not be stuck in that moment. And so she wouldn't listen. And sadly, at that same point in my life, which, you know, most of us, you can't just go through one tragic incident in your life. My dad got really sick and ended up dying. They called and said, you got to get up to Ohio, and your dad's in intensive care. So I rushed up there to be with him. And on my way home to plan his funeral, my surgeon called and said, we're doing the lumpectomy. That's it. We're going to get it out. We're doing the lumpectomy. And I just felt like I didn't have a voice. And I have a pretty good, strong personality.
Right.
And I feel like I can stick up for myself. Moved out at 17. I'm, you know, pretty independent when it comes to that. And I just felt like I couldn't, she's not listening. And she's the expert, and she's not listening to me. And, you know, I've done my research. I prayed about this. I talked to my family. I knew what was best for me, but she wouldn't listen. And so we ended up having a lumpectomy just to get it out, March 29th of 2012. And it came back invasive. So now it's worse. So now I'm stage 1. And my head just spun. I couldn't believe it.
Were you so angry?
I was so angry.
You should have followed your gut.
Yeah.
Could you have gone to another doctor and they would have said, yeah, we're going to do the mastectomy?
You know, I probably could have, but when you're in that situation, you're just so scared and you just want to live. And they're supposed to be the expert, and they're super well known, and so many people have gone there. And, you know, she does great work, and I respect her work, but at the same time, you got to listen to your patients too. And so her nurse had called and said, this is your stage 1. It's invasive. So when you come in, and I was like, when I come in for my post-op, we're going to talk. And I found my voice for sure, because I let her know, like, this is unacceptable. Now I have to turn around and have another surgery. And that's when we planned for the double mastectomy. And she was on board for it then. But it was just unfortunate I had to go through.
Do you think you changed her career in a way because of she wasn't listening to her patients, and maybe you made a difference or an impact for future cancer patients that come in?
I surely hope so.
Yeah.
And whenever I do anything like this, or just in work general, and I talk about it, you know, and this gets talked about. And I know that we've been to events together. She's heard me talk about it. And I hope that she's listening, because she does great work. I mean, she will clean that whole area out, and she's got that reputation. But at the same time, don't forget, you've got to listen to your patients.
We're talking to Tara Williamson, founder and CEO of Pink Ink Tattoo, who started this business because of her own journey with breast cancer. And so you end up with a double mastectomy, and then what happens from there?
So I had expanders put in, which stretch out the muscle. That's a form of the reconstruction. And we did that over the summer at, let's see, I think it was 5 days before Christmas of 2012. We did what's called an exchange, where they take out the expanders and put in implants.
Okay.
And now there you have your breast mounds. And we already knew from the beginning I wanted to do nipple reconstruction. And that's just where they stretch out the skin, at least for me, and then kind of make a nipple. And so at that appointment, which was March of 13, my plastic surgeon, who I just adore and love, he did listen. He was like a best friend, a psychiatrist, everything. And so he knew that's what I wanted to do. And at that appointment, he said, you know, Tara, the next step is tattooing. And I went, what? And he was like, areola tattooing. And I said, oh my God, I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. You know, I have a few tattoos, but nobody's ever talked about it. You've got to tell me who this expert is. I have to meet them. Like, how amazing. And he said, well, that's the problem. There really isn't anyone doing that, especially an expert. And I was like, it's 2013. You're kidding me. I'll fly anywhere. I'll go anywhere in the country to have this done. And he was like, no, I know of a couple of tattoo artists, traditional artists, that can provide it. And our nurse does here in the office, but you know, she's been trained 3 times. And I was like, what? So disappointed. Like, this is such an important, like, that's
right.
And if I was a plastic surgeon, I would say, like, this is going to enhance the beautiful work I've just created for this woman. And so I just did my research. So did he. We couldn't find any. I ended up having the nurse do the procedure, which she did the best that she could, you know, but it was her job.
So she was a nurse that they trained to do the tattoo.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And I got to that day, and it just still blows my mind, because I got there that day with the mindset of like, oh, I can't wait to choose my color, have what I want. This is going to be the perfect ending to this nightmare. And I asked her, I said, you know, do I get to choose? And she was like, well, yeah, bubblegum pink, chocolate brown, or nude.
Oh,
and I went, what? I mean, you're not going to mix them? There's not. And she was like, no, this is what we have.
You would think they would take maybe a picture of your original nipple to make it as much like the original,
or even
or a better
something.
One, whatever.
Yeah, right. But that's the 3 options, and then 3 different sizes, and I just was blown away. So I picked this and I picked that, and we got started. You know, I wanted something, not nothing. And as she got started, I felt like I was going to melt through that chair. That pain was just unbelievable. And she said, well, you shouldn't feel anything. All your nerves are cut. You had a double mastectomy. I'm like, well, then I'm a miracle, because I don't know what's happening, but this is awful. Can you use any kind of numbing, lidocaine? And she said, oh, no. And traditional tattoo artists, Tara, don't either. but I mean, you can do it. I've done this. And I just ready to walk out with half a nipple. I thought, this is so unacceptable. And I was like, I'm a nurse, you're a nurse. I give permission. Let's do it. And she was like, no, I can't. So I left, and it was so painful, and that pain just radiated for a few hours after. I had to cancel my plans for lunch with my kids to go celebrate the end of it.
And is that normal for that pain?
It can be.
Okay.
So that's why when I walked out of that door that day, there's like a long hallway, and it's lit up, and something just came over
With those
me.
bright, ugly lights.
Yeah. And it was a procedure, and I walked through that hallway, and something just came over me and said, you have to do this. You're going to do this. And I walked through that door, and my doctor was standing there, and he was like, what do you think? And I said, that's unacceptable. And I'm going to go train with the best in the world, and I'm coming back and offering this to survivors because we deserve the best. And he was like, do it. And 8 months later, I called him and said, hey, I started my business, Pink Ink Tattoo. I've tattooed 4 women in New Jersey. I'm ready to, I'd love to share. And he was like, Tara, can you come in today? So I went in. He opened up, I had this portfolio. I just wanted to show him. And he opened it up, and he stood up and put his hands on the desk, and he said, Tara, this is my office. You get in here and you help women.
Oh,
and that's
awesome.
where it began. So I really, and that was Dr. Jeremy Pyle back then. And he just opened that door to allow me to reach so many breast cancer survivors to help them with this.
Right.
And I was in his office for 7.5 years, seeing women from all over the world. By the time I was done, first, of course, it was locally, and then it started getting national, and then it went global. And I just thought, oh my God, what a blessing. Thank you, Lord, for giving me this talent and to be able to help so many people.
And this experience, too, for you
Absolutely.
to walk through it personally, to be able to share your journey. But how did you come with a kit, though? Like, how does it come when you just train to do this, and then you offer, do the women show you, or the men, whoever comes to you, do they offer a photo, or how do you know exactly what they want? They just pick it, or?
Well, when I had this in my mind, like, I'm on a mission, nothing's getting in my way, I don't even care, I'm going to help. And because we deserve to feel beautiful in our own skin,
right.
No matter. And I found this lady up north, and she had an institute, and her work was beautiful, still not what I wanted for us. And her and I talked. She knew I was on a mission. We did a one-on-one training and for a couple of days. And I just, within 30 minutes of being there, honest to God, I was already tattooing. Of course, she, drew it out a little bit better than I did. We did unilateral, which is a little more difficult. But then I started tattooing, and we were done. The client started crying, and I got teared up, and then the owner did. And it was just a beautiful experience because I knew I was right where I should have been and what I should be doing. Like, I found my calling, and I came back. And so when women come to me for the areola tattooing, or anyone, we don't do a pre-consultation where you pick your color then, because you have so many emotions.
Right.
That the day of your appointment for tattooing, you might have completely changed that.
Okay.
So sometimes they'll be, they'll bring their own photos of pre-surgery or magazine, pictures, wherever they want to get it. And, or they just come with no idea, and we just work it out together. And let me tell you, I have tons of colors. We'll mix it to what they want. That was so important to me, for their voice to be heard, what they want for their body, not me, not mine. It's their, and even as far as like the music, it's what they want to listen to. This isn't about me. Right. If they want 100 people in that room with them, it's a celebration. That's what it's about. It doesn't bother me at all. And because I'm just laser focused on them and what they want. So it's the color, and we'll mix it to what they want, which was that ink made in America. It's made in the USA, which is important. It's gamma sterilized, which means you can have, there's no bacteria. You can have MRIs in the future, which was important. There's no heavy metal in it. So the scans and the MRIs, I'm that patient too. So that's safe for them, which was important, and sometimes they don't think about that when they're going to get this done. And so as far as the music and the ink and the color, it's all them. And, afterwards, their aftercare, I supply that with them, and we go over it. And, of course, they can always contact me, with issues or, anything that the concerns, questions they didn't have. I'm available constantly because I want them to be safe and comfortable and, through this whole,
You've created a lot of friendships, lifelong friendships, I'm sure, for these
Oh,
women. Or
gosh,
you've
yeah.
been their saving grace. So you know a lot about these women and everyone that comes in to see you.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, are you the only one still that really does this, or did they finally branch out? Is it just Pink Ink Tattoo?
Well, I think there's, of course, over when somebody hears something and as it got more put out there
Right.
and people started picking up my story and looking at my work, everybody who does any kind of tattooing, permanent makeup or traditional tattooing, well, they can do that too. So when people say, well, you don't come to Washington State yet, and I can't come to you in North Carolina, who do I need to look for? What can I... And I just tell them, do they have any medical knowledge? Do they know signs and symptoms of infection? If after you have a mastectomy, if something, you're not healed completely, can they tell? Or are they just going to work on that compromised skin just for the bottom dollar? Like, do they have your best interest? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't really say that. I just say, can they, have they worked with compromised tissue? No signs and symptoms of infection. What is their history? And it's just things like that are important when you search for someone. So to answer your question, sure, there's a lot of people now in 2022 that offer it. You just
But did they just jump on board because you were doing it, or they, yes, I get it. Do you know the stats of women with breast cancer even today? So I'm sure, it used to be a one size fits all back in the day, but now, do you know the stats on that? And how many women are you seeing like on a weekly basis to come in for, or, however frequently they come in?
COVID affected us a lot, and sadly, a lot of people didn't get their mammograms, and so that delayed everything. And reconstruction, just everything was just getting so delayed. So this year, it's definitely, I can see an uptake on all that, and so it's important. No matter what's going on in the world, you have to go get your mammogram, and you have to get your checkups, and do your own self checkups. But I see, well, I'm busy.
Yeah.
But I always tell myself when I get that email or that phone call, they're survivors. Right. I might see 20 people this week, but I'm like, they're a survivor. And that's, so it's heartbreaking because all these women are just affected, and men. Yes. But I mean, men, it's more like 1 in 1,000, where women, it used to be 1 in 9, and then it was 1 in 8, but now it's 1 in 7.5.
Right.
But my own personal life, I have 7 girlfriends I grew up with, since the age of 13. We all grew up in the Cary Apex area. And 3 in a 4-year period were diagnosed with breast cancer. No family history, no genetic mutations. It just doesn't make sense. When I was 39, they were 40, 41. And so that's not 1 in 7. That was, 3 in 7.
Right. I actually have a problem with trying to do the self-check because I'm one of the people that fear knowing, even though I know you have to have young kids too, you want to protect yourself. But what do you say to that person that maybe they're not doing those routine checkups? They're not, like, it took you a while to get in there, even as a nurse. Like, what do you say to that person that might be listening right now that's like, I'll be fine?
But you know what? You might not be fine, though. So doing that self-check, even if it turns out to be nothing, it could just be a cyst or a fatty tissue. It might not go into anywhere, but not doing anything and delaying, that could just be more catastrophic.
Right.
And a life decision. And especially, like you said, you have kids, putting it off. I know someone that put it off for a year, and sadly, she's not here. And she was a sweetheart. Like, I just loved her, and I worked with her for years as a nurse. But she was scared, and, well, first she was too busy, so she didn't do self-exams. And then when she finally took a shower, and then it was so large she felt it. And she still delayed it because, my breasts are dense. They're bumpy and lumpy, and, it's not anything. I don't have time. I'm working.
Right.
I'm raising my kids. I'm working. And that just didn't end.
This lights a fire because, I know a lot of people, myself included, I know your son's in here, but, I have bumpy boobs as well. And so when I feel that, I'm like, oh, that freaks me out, but that's supposed to be there. That's fine.
Yes.
But you have to go and check it because you just never know. And the technology they have now, they can help you. And then they can come and see you and they can feel normal again and get rid of breast cancer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, and for some women, if you do find something and you do choose a lumpectomy, it should be your decision. And if that's what you choose, then I respect your choice for your own body. And that's all, as far as all that goes. But for me, it wasn't. But I know women who are 20 years, breast cancer survivor, and they did have a lumpectomy, and they're doing beautiful, and they're thriving fabulously, so it doesn't mean if you are diagnosed, you have to do this, depending on what stage that you are. So it's just to have options and to know have all the information to make that educated decision.
I know you travel to see patients, but do you have an office here in North Carolina for an easy visit for locals?
I just opened an office in August in Lewisburg, North Carolina, so I can offer more services and more hours and days there. But I still travel, into Raleigh and work with plastic surgeons at their offices, and I go national, so I'm in Mississippi, Texas, and just anywhere that you need me. That's right.
We're talking to Tara Williamson, founder of Pink Ink Tattoo, who helps women all over the country, men, and the trans community. And Tara, your son is in studio with us today. He now works for Pink Ink Tattoo. Alex, what do you have to say to your mom about, first of all, she did whatever it took to make sure she was there for you kids, and about breast cancer in general?
Absolutely. I think as far as a role model goes, she exemplifies what it means to be a parent and to be an inspirational figure, especially within the cancer community. And I'm honored to be able to work with her and see the change that she can make and the impact she does for others, not just as a nurse, but as a cancer survivor herself. And ultimately, that finishing touch that she provides to these women and men and how it helps them heal in this process.
Okay, well, if your mom and I didn't cry, you just made us cry now because I have a boy too. So, tears.
Yeah.
pinkinktattoo.com. Go check them out. Amazing folks that make a difference in the community. And it is a Women's Health Month, so it's important to check yourself and take the initiative to just do what you got to do to stay healthy. Anything you want to say to Mom that your son said that you're going to bust out crying?
I love him so much. I thank you, Alex. And that means a lot when you get that reassurance from your children that, you're doing something right. So,
tearjerker.
Yeah.
Breast cancer, unfortunately, is no stranger to many homes here in America and all over the world. So, Tara, where can people reach out to you with questions or concerns? Maybe a family member needs advice on what they need to do. Where can they find you?
Well, women first should make sure they get their annual checkups, do their mammograms. If they find anything, don't hesitate. Go get it checked. As far as reaching out with me, and I love partnering. There's so many great, fabulous companies around this whole town, nonprofits and all that, I can help. So if you have questions about, I need financial assistance with bills while I'm going through cancer, I can connect you with that as well. But for me, you can go to my website. All that information is on there at pinkinktattoo.com. I'm on all social media. That's why my son's here, because he's the one. I took him away from the canes and brought him with me. I was like, come on. And he does have that master's degree in marketing. But I was like, Alex, I just need, because I want to be focused on helping.
Right.
And not the social, that's not. But Instagram, it's pink_ink_tattoo. Twitter, Facebook, I'm all there. And then, of course, you can always call me at 919-729-1002.
Okay. And social is the easy way to go these
days. It is.
I mean, everybody reaches out to social, so make sure, and I'll tag it too as well, so you'll know where to find her if not. Tara, any last words for the community?
You're not alone. We've been there. I've been there. I understand. And I think that's what sets me aside. Like, I'm a nurse and I'm certified in areola tattooing, but the main thing is I'm a survivor. This is my 10-year anniversary. It's a huge deal in the cancer world, 10 years. And so to anybody that feels like they're alone, reach out. We've got great community things that can be there for you. So you're not alone.
And your website?
pinkinktattoo.com.
Yes. And she's got before and after photos on there, which I can't wait to see because, do you have a gallery of?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I can't wait to see that because it really does make you feel like a real person again.
It does. And I don't put them on Facebook or Instagram, but they're on my website. And if just because of the respect I have for others. Right. And if you need more, I'll send you 5,000 photos, whatever you want, but absolutely, they're on there.
Thank you so much for coming in today. Nice to meet your son, but
Alex.
You've been around the triangle for a long time helping women. So congrats on 10 years and congrats on the success of Pink Ink Tattoo.
Thank you so much, Erica.
Very informative today and a huge reminder to do those self-exams and also visit your doctor. I'm Erica DeLong, and that does it for this week's Around the Triangle. If you'd like to join, please reach out Around the Triangle at iHeartRadio.com. That's Around the Triangle at iHeartRadio.com. And big thank you to our guest today, Tara Williamson and her son, Alex from Pink Ink Tattoo. Thanks for listening.